Dear friends, dear guests, I would like to apologize first for my belated arrival, and I think this is the first and only late session that has started, so I'm so sorry I was a bit sick today, but alhamdulillah, I could gather myself to meet with you all. So thank you for coming to Istanbul. It's an honor for us all to welcome you here in this beautiful city. And in a week that's so special and meaningful for our nation. Dear friends, dear guests, I believe that the International Green Crescent Federation, which was set up in Istanbul last year, is an important investment into the future of our region, of our world, for humanity in general. I'm confident that the topics that has been discussed here through these 3 days increase our strength and motivation in fighting against addictions. I would like to thank the distinguished representatives of country Green Crescent societies and international organizations for their contributions. And I have no doubt that the synergy created here will reach the different parts of the world, to our countries, to our societies, exponentially. And we will build a healthy and peaceful society together. Dear friends, we've gathered here as 36 country representatives to realize a very, very important ideal. Our dream is a world free of all addictions that threaten humanity. While it might appear distant and difficult at times, especially at times like this, the challenging nature of global politics, economy, and all, we are willing to do our part. And this meeting is why special, for Turkey especially. So clearly, faced with very critical global problems such as terrorism, civil wars, environmental disasters, the world has failed to pay sufficient attention to addictions. It's not enough for us to fight against drug lords who use illegal means to entrap young people in their drug networks. Apparently, young people also fall prey to addictions through the legal means used by multinational tobacco and alcohol companies. Legal and illegal addictions are spreading extremely fast and annihilating human lives. Moreover, new addiction types are emerging, as is the case with internet technology addiction, which threaten young people, further enlarging the battlefield in front of us. Hence, our fight is against a gigantic problem which is spreading extremely quickly through various channels and which requires highly specific solutions. We are fighting against the tobacco and alcohol industry, drug cartels who are exploiting the world with billions of dollars in profit. Just looking at the tobacco epidemic, the primary cause of preventable diseases and illnesses according to the WHO stats, it can give us an idea about the magnitude of the problem. You all know this better than I do, but 1 out of 3 adults over the age of 15, in other words, approximately 1.5 billion people all over the world, smoke tobacco. Unfortunately, approximately 6 million people around the world die every year due to tobacco-related diseases and illnesses. In Turkey alone, 100,000 of our citizens lose their lives due to tobacco-related illnesses again. So tobacco epidemic is making the poor countries poorer, while it's pouring billions of dollars of profits into the stronger countries, multinational cigarette companies. The situation is not any different when it comes to alcohol addiction, the third major cause of preventable deaths according to the WHO again, imposed as a prerequisite of modernity and Western lifestyle, alcohol consumption is increasing and turning into a major public health problem that we need to face in the near future. Unfortunately, drug addiction figures are also on the rise. The UN reports that there are 29 million addicts in the world, substances which cause addictions regardless of their level or type, damage an individual's physical, mental, psychological, and social integrity. Similarly, technology addiction stands before us as one of the most serious problems of the past 20 years. Internet addiction starts at relatively younger ages now. Unfortunately, technology addiction is turning technology into a threat rather than an opportunity that we all hoped for. And unfortunately, this addiction starts much earlier compared to all other sorts of addictions. So this irresponsible use creates many negative emotional, physical, and mental results, as well as social disengagement kind of problems that we need to address. The fight against these ever-deepening problems, of course, require working with an evidence-based and strategic perspective, just as it requires faith and dedication, because there are different social, environmental, psychosocial, and individual factors that are at stake here. So we tended to believe that only dedication can actually resolve this. But our Turkish example, we can say that success story in Turkey on tobacco, fight against tobacco, illustrates very well that it is not only dedication, but scientifically sound methodology that creates effective results. So we have to uphold this in these different country Green Crescent societies as well. So I would like to offer this as the Turkish model for fighting all kinds of addictions, but I call this Glocal model for fighting against addictions. It's not global, but Glocal, because its methodology is based in global scientific monitoring, strategic planning, and all, but it has to be based in local realities of different societies. There are different psychological, cultural codes that are behind these addictions, as you all know. So fighting against them needs to address these differences. We need to address these differences. I remember developing the anti-tobacco campaign in Turkey. This is the shisha campaign, the campaign against shisha. We said there is death at the end of it. The shisha, what is it called? The hookah. So we said that, it's a long road, but there is, death at the end of it. And it's interesting that the shisha hookah is more popular among the more conservative and religiously conservative parts of and sectors of Turkish society. So we said, let's do a survey and try to understand what underlines this usage, because you see people, young people sometimes, and sometimes very, popular figures, and they would, smoke hookah, and they would feel like they're actually saving the nation, and they're actually upholding the tradition, because this is our tradition, We don't smoke tobacco, but shisha, come on. So we asked people, I don't remember how many people the survey encompassed, but it's more than 1,000, of course. And we recognized that these are important codes that we have to address while, developing our campaign. We recognized another thing. We asked people why they feel comfortable smoking hookah while they're not that comfortable smoking tobacco. And they said that many of them came up with something very interesting, that they would not drink, for example, from the tea glass of another person that they don't know, and they would never actually touch or, lick somebody else's ice cream. And we said, oh, that's a good idea. Then, this is the cultural code underpinning the Turkish society. So yeah, we need to address this while developing our hookah campaign. So if you watch our hookah campaign clips, you see some of them saying that, would you drink from from a glass that 10 other people drank before? And another one addressed that, I think it showed that the hookah, consumption actually served the multinational companies rather than, creating or celebrating our cultural heritage. And so we found out that 1 year later, this campaign was one of the most remembered campaigns. And so we felt like this was the most effective campaigns that we've actually realized in Turkey by Green Crescent. So I believe that the Glocal approach is immensely important for our campaigns worldwide. The magnitude of the problem, as I told, and the limitations of our resources is very critical. And we have to make feasible choices in our methodology. And as I talked in Turkey, we have limited resources, and we are facing huge companies with billions of dollars that are poured into PR campaigns and all. So the fight is big, and sometimes it might lead us to despair and frustration, I recognize. But we all know that one is strong, and if one comes together with all, it's even stronger. So all country Green Crescent societies unite, and we need to unite our power and engage in a sustainable effort. If we can unite, we can achieve significant and beneficial results for all. And in our countries too, if we can attend to a global approach, I believe, we can find out that we will succeed in shorter times than we expect. And when we unite our power, I believe that there are many things that we can do on a global scale. The Turkish Green Crescent Society can be seen as the success of actually individuals that came together as one. As you know, it's 97 years ago that a group of intellectuals came together to establish Turkish Green Crescent Society at a time when the Turkish nation was engaged in an independence war on many fronts. And this society, which has people at its heart and aims to keep new generations away from harmful habits and addictions, has achieved a lot in Turkey. It has used the right tools to tell the public about the destructive aspects of addictions and dedicated itself to the fight against addictions by using planning, monitoring, measuring, and assessment tools based on scientific principles and evidence-based methods. Of course, governments, non-governmental organizations, and the media have to play a key role in this fight. Yet more than anything else, I would like to point to an institutions where we socialize before everything else. That's the family. All addictions start and breed in the family. So many scholarly work indicate that children who have been brought up with care under their parents' supervision and that have no gaps in their emotional development have an easier time managing themselves in their adulthood. They have an easier time saying no to these addictions. So this is an important aspect of the fight. We have to, raise individuals that are able to say no when all the popular forces are pushing them to say yes, pushing them to see the wrong habit as cool. So we need to create the good habit as cool. So we have to start this in the family. We have to work on the family more, I believe. And we have to re-emphasize the balance between a strong individual, a strong family, and a strong society. Children whose parents do not hold their hands, pat their heads, unfortunately try to find other means to fill those gaps. Generations whose aims, targets, and ideals are taken from their hands are lost in the void. A young person who picks up a bad habit can easily become addicted to others. Such habits are like the rings in a chain of disasters, and one leads to another. So dear friends, dear participants, we must also combat misleading discourses and cultural codes. And cultural codes are harder to fight compared to all other material numbers and, addictive figures and all. For example, I remember in our campaigns, one of the, arguments that was made was, smoking is a human rights issue. You cannot intervene in a person's right to hazard himself. You cannot intervene. That's a choice. So that's a cultural code too. We have to work with that. We have to address it, because if we cannot change that discourse, that's also infiltrating others. And it's actually slowing down the power of all kinds of campaigns that you're running. So we have to face these kind of codes, and we have to show that it's actually a human right to have access to fresh air, to clean air, and as such, it's a state's role, it's a state's responsibility to actually take care of its citizens who have a right to fresh air. We have to transform these codes effectively. We can only protect human rights not by turning a blind eye on those who smoke in public, by saying that it's their right, but by prohibiting smoking in public. Yes, prohibiting smoking. Unfortunately, we are living in a world where the definitions of rights are even distorted. As someone who meets with young people quite often, I see that the more we fill their lives with useful activities, the fewer problems they have. For example, sports and arts and moral development are very important for them to develop their character. Individuals who develop their spirit with art education and learn discipline through sports at a young age are better able to protect themselves in their adulthood. We must help hope flourish in this global chaos. It's, of course, possible to create a different, more peaceful world, and I truly believe in this. What is important is to dedicate ourselves to this cause. We must design a different development model that's not based on measuring material goods, material ends, but is based on human values. I firmly believe that country green crescent societies will be a part of this effort. And for the past 3 days, I'm sure my colleagues here in Green Crescent Society have shared with you their experience, the activities of the Turkish Green Crescent Society. They consulted invaluable experts. They presented what we call the Turkish Rehabilitation model, YEDAM. We put as much effort into restarting the lives of addicts as we do hope to do our part in preventing addictions. We believe that the education system should be a part of this mobilization and offer courses on preventing addictions at schools. We also offer the SIMERG Awards, Zümrüt Anka Ödülleri, to individuals and organizations which are role models in this fight against addiction. Although the phoenix, which is called Simurg in Eastern mythologies, is only a legend, I think we have some things to learn from Simurg's story. As you know, Simurg lived on the branches of the tree of knowledge and knew everything. So birds flying around. They believed in Simurg and thought that it would save them from all sorts of problems when they are facing these problems. So Simurg nest was, known to be hidden somewhere on the top of the Kaf mountain. This Kaf mountain stood on clouds, and so a number of birds decided to go to Simurg to resolve their problems. But they had to pass through 7 valleys. These valleys are known as the Valley of Knowledge, Detachment, Unity, Love, Wonderment, Annihilation. And all of the birds started to fly towards the sky. As many of you know, many of them just decided to not go farther. They lost their faith in the presence of Simurg. They lost their determination, they lost their willpower, and eventually only 30 birds could arrive the Kaf mountain. When they reached Simurg's nest, they realized that Simurg was not there. And they realized that Simurg was actually the 30 birds. They were seeking themselves while they thought they were seeking Simurg. But on the road, they actually developed their character, their self. So the moral of the story is that what matters is one's journey towards oneself, rather than these all, higher goals. We sometimes think that we can actually achieve if we can go farther away from ourselves, but it looks like if we are seeking a solution, it starts from ourselves and strengthening ourselves and our determination. So the quest for human dignity, which we unfortunately lost in this 21st century, the risk century, is a similar process. We must fight together and in a conscientious manner against all addictions which take control over people's wills, such as drugs and alcohol. I truly believe that this meeting will bear wonderful fruits in the future. I hope that by focusing on concrete and sustainable targets, we will be able to decrease the rates of tobacco use, alcohol, drug, gambling, and technology addiction by even next year. Let's not go any farther. Dear guests, I conclude my words. I don't want to keep you any longer. I would like to emphasize an issue which I think sets another example and which actually strengthens my dedication and determination in this fight. That is, as you know, a year ago, July 15th, 2016, there was a coup attempt in Turkey, and this attack against democracy and the will of the people was rendered futile thanks to the resistance of our nation. Those who were in Turkey at the time very well know that the power of one could actually change the fate of a nation. While saying the power of one, I may refer to this wonderful, Commander Ömer Halis Demir, who actually shot a chief of commander who was about to give the order for the shooting of the president's plane. Some people say this is a controlled coup. Hard to believe. So one person, and within a matter of minutes, have saved an elected president in this country. Another person, I might give an example. Those people walking on the Bosphorus Bridge on that night, they were all ready to be martyrs for the future of this nation. And believe me, those women, I'm sure you've seen pictures of them. Those women, I met many of them. I go to their houses, I visit them, because I really want to learn more about the courage. We all felt more courageous than we normally are on that night, but those people are seriously bigger than one. So I realized when I talked to them, they said, you know, I'm usually not such a courageous person, you know. If you tell me just go before a tank right now, I probably would not be as courageous as that. But that night, there was something else. I believed in one thing. I had a strong belief in this nation, in the future of this nation. I had a strong belief in my democratic will. I had a strong belief in the leadership. This is not a political speech, so I don't want to push this further. But it was clear that the strength of their belief strengthened their action, strengthened, you know, and you know, enlarged the kind of things that they can do. So I believe that the fight against addiction is no different than this. If we strengthen our belief, if we strengthen our determination, I believe that our attitude will change, our power will increase. And going back to July 15th, I would like to commemorate all our martyrs and veterans. And I would like to celebrate with you all the hearts and the courage of these beautiful people in our nation. I would like to also point to the fact that what made that victory possible was the strong collective memory that was created over the last 10 years, 15 years, a memory that did not want to experience another coup in this country. So in our fight against addictions, we also need to develop this collective memory, a global memory. Maybe we need to create you know, a showcase of the success stories and a showcase of the end results of these addictions in different contexts. And we need to make this more visible in front of the global agenda. So dear guests and friends, welcome back to Istanbul, and I hope you've enjoyed this beautiful city. We have lots of events coming up tonight and tomorrow, as this is the National Victory Day since last year. So enjoy your time in Istanbul, and thank you very much for coming here and you know, sharing our experiences with you was, I'm sure, a big pleasure for us. And learning from your experiences in your countries was also very strong pleasure. So thank you very much. Hope to see you again in your own countries. Thank you.